I have written a book. It's called In My Element, Life Lessons from the World's Toughest Solo Ocean Race. It's being published by Bloomsbury in October, and it's available now for pre-order on Amazon. I wrote it this winter, and my inspiration for it was kind of all of you guys, really. So whenever I do a talk, whenever I meet people and they want to talk about the Vendée, most often people want to ask me about the human elements of being a sports person, being entirely alone for 3 months, kind of pushing yourself to stay motivated, to manage fear, to overcome problems, to build your kind of mental resilience. And it's the human element of our 3-month endurance race that seems to kind of attract most questions. So I decided that I would write a book based around these common questions. And the book follows my story through the Vendée Globe race using blog excerpts and stories that you might not have heard before. And then in each chapter, I talk about one of the tools or techniques that I used to get me through that race and to maintain kind of a good mental health and a good competitive spirit throughout the race. So there are things like I talk about how to switch your mood using kind of music or your environment, how I face fear, how I manage my kind of anxiety when the boat's going really fast and I'm not sure if I'm pushing hard enough. I talk about how I triage a really busy job list. And also kind of about how I really take joy from the great moments and bank it for the hard times when I'm sailing. If you'd like to find out more about the book, you can click on the link below, which will take you to the Amazon pre-order link. I'm hoping that kind of it will just lift the lid a little bit on the human side of my race, as well as sharing the story of what it was like for me personally to sail around the world in 2020. But also it might give a bit of an insight into what I'm expecting and what I'm preparing for in the 2024 race. As I said, if you would like to find out more about the book or pre-order it, then you can click the link below. Thank you all for your questions after the news of my book, which is called In My Elements, Life Lessons from the World's Toughest Solo Ocean Race. I'm going to answer a few of your questions now. Are you going to be doing any book signing appearances? I haven't got anything scheduled at the moment, and the timing for when the book physically is published is quite close to the start of the Vendée Globe race. So the book is physically published on the 10th of October, and I have to be in France in the race village on the 18th of October. If we do anything, then we will be sure to share times, dates, places with you via our social media channels, but quite possibly it may be after the 2024 Vendée Globe race next year. How have I found time to do this? That's a really good question. So I wrote the book during our winter refit this year, over 3 months. I had an incredible editor, Wanda, who took all of my scrawly writing and put it into shape and then sent it back to me again. So that really helped. But I think it was a case of give yourself a deadline. I knew I wanted it to be published before the Vendée Globe so people could read it as an accompaniment to watching me race around the world. And I think, the important thing is you've got to just decide to do it, and then you do it. Will you be able to get a copy in France in November? So currently we only have a British publisher. If any French publishers out there would like to get in touch with us, then please do. So at the moment, the only way to get the book outside of the UK is to order it on Amazon from a UK bookseller and have it sent to you. How long did it take to write the book? So it took me 3 months to write the book. I started talking about the concept in June 2023. And we kind of then found a publisher. We mapped out what it would look like, worked on kind of all of the chapter titles and the structure. And then during my refit over this winter, so January, February, March, I sat down and wrote the book. Have I been thinking about writing a book for a while, or was it a recent idea? Those of you who regularly follow my racing will know that I actually very much enjoy the written word. I think potentially it's my favourite way of communicating. And so, yes, I very much had the idea that I would write a book at some point, but I just didn't really know what it was about. And I'm definitely not ready to kind of write a memoir-y kind of book, because I'm definitely not done. I don't think my life is interesting. But I then thought about kind of what other things I could write about. And it was based on the common questions, the questions I get asked over and over again. How do you manage fear? How do you stay motivated? How do you not feel lonely? What's your communication like? And so I knew there was an appetite to understand in a deeper way the human elements of what we do as solo sailors. And that kind of putting all of that together, I realised there was a book there. So kind of the format of the book was recent, but the idea to write one is a long-term thing. Will the book be available in paperback? Yes, it will. What's the book about and what will you learn from it? So the book is kind of, as it says in the subtitle, it is kind of life lessons from the world of solo sailing. It follows my journey through the 2020 Vendée Globe race. But in each chapter, I address kind of one of the tools, techniques, philosophies that I either took with me around the world or learned as I was going around the world on how to manage myself as a human being in isolation, facing massive challenges in a huge 3-month-long competition. And it was all the human elements of being on the boat that I talked about. So kind of how I approach risk, how I kind of stay competitive, I talk about using kind of moments of intense joy and kind of trying to imprint them on your brain so that when you go through the next big storm, or when you're in the next moment when you're feeling really low and really tired, you can refer back to those happy moments and use them to kind of stabilize your energy. And the idea is that if you buy the book before the 2024 Vendée Globe race, you'll be able to read it while watching the race. And as I'm going through new challenges with a new boat in a new race, and I can't possibly know what's out there, you'll be able to kind of read the book and have a bit more insight into how me as a human being, how I'm dealing with the book. Everything is very personal to me, and it's how I've developed kind of over the years and where I find strength, but also the areas that I need to work on. Where can you get the book? So currently the book is available for pre-order on Amazon, and you can follow the link in the description. We're going to share some news about how you might be able to buy a copy from the Pip Hare Ocean Racing team, and we'll share that news later on in August. And by October, you should be able to also buy the book through UK bookshops. is the book available in the US. The book is not being published by a US publisher currently. Again, if there are any US publishers out there who would like to get involved, please get in touch. However, you can order it online and have it sent to the US. Will I write another book after the Vendée? So the idea was to kind of almost write an update for this book after the Vendée with kind of new lessons, you know, how I feel a bit about life after facing the challenges that are ahead, which I couldn't possibly know about right now. But I definitely have another book in me, 2, 3 books maybe. I enjoyed writing it and I think I've got more to say. What was my favourite chapter to write? I actually very much enjoyed writing the whole book. It was great to relive that experience, and especially at the beginning of this year, because as a team we had a very, very tough start to this year. And sometimes, you know, you do kind of wonder, why am I doing this? Why am I making my life so hard? You know, there are a million different options that would be easier, that wouldn't be so stressful. And so actually to kind of dive deep into the 2020 Vendée Globe race and re-engage with how that race made me feel and why this race has always been a massive part of who I am. That was a really great process. And in particular, kind of looking at the moments where I talk about taking a risk and it paying off. I talk about driving the boat hard and what that feels like. I talk about the moments of sheer joy and how I have imprinted them on my mind using music and feeling, and how those memories buoy me through the difficult times. So yeah, it's all been quite an enjoyable process. Did I write the book while I was sailing? No, I didn't. I wrote the book while the boat was in refit, January, February and March this year. How on earth do I think straight with so little sleep? So this is something that I address in the book, the importance of understanding your cognitive ability and knowing whether or not to trust your risk-taking and decision-making when you are on so little sleep. And part of what I do, one of the really common tools that I use is quite basic mental arithmetic. So I will subtract 23 from 67. And if I can't do that in my head, then I know that I really need to sleep, and I should not kind of make any big decisions or should downplay the risk that I'm taking until my brain has had a little bit more time to recover. What is the most important thing that I wrote, and what am I taking into this race? I think the process of writing the book made me re-engage with how strong I can be when I'm put in a circumstance where I have to be the solution. And on the land, we are absolutely surrounded by people that want to help us, that are better than us at doing things, but also not necessarily, you know, we're not necessarily encouraged to always fix our own problems. And alone on the ocean, you have to do that. And so writing the book, going back through my blogs, actually thinking some of the things that happened during the race that I'd completely forgotten about. And it made me feel proud of myself again. And that's the feeling I had when I finished the Vendée. I felt so proud of myself, and I don't always feel proud of myself, especially, you know, when we as a team are going through hard times and we're not quite achieving the things that I aspire to, then it's not always easy to feel proud. So writing a book like this has just made me remember, no, I can be that person. It's inside me. I need to work hard. Is the book available in audio form? Yes, it is. I actually was recording the audiobook a couple of weeks ago, and that will be available for pre-order soon, and we will let you know when it comes out. Are we organising any support boats for the start of the Vendée Globe race? So at the moment, we're only involved in organising boats for our team function at the start of the race. And actually, to be honest, kind of with the size of team and the resources that we have, that's all we're going to be able to do. But what we will do is, as soon as we get news of the spectator boats that are available, of the best ways to watch the start, to come to the race village, we will share that information on our social media channels as often as we can. So anybody who wants to come out to the start or to visit the race village in the 3 weeks before the start, you can really engage with what is going to be an incredible 2024 race.